So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I would like to welcome the talented and phenomenal Nikki Eberhardt. Um, uh, I would like to emphasize that her professional role, first and foremost, is an assistant professor of business for Minerva. Um, and and she's disrupting, or the company is disrupting higher education. Um, its headquarters on San Francisco, and also we are close, and also they're close to their C series funding, and then also part of the Global Citizen team. So welcome, Nikki.
Thank you, Karen. Nice to be joining you.
So Nikki, firstly, congratulations on all your incredible achievements. Um, so your life goal is to power people with audacious solutions armed to tackle the globe's most in, intractable challenges. Intractable challenges. Can you please give us some background on this and how your journey began?
Certainly. I come from the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
Part and parcel of that is tackling global issues. And I'm trained to have systems thinker approach to tackling those issues, sort of that 30,000 foot view where you look down and you identify trends and patterns. And so fighting extreme poverty, gender inequality, issues associated with migration have always been important to me. But over the last decade, I have been privileged to associate with some very powerful partnerships that included not only the nonprofit sector, but also government entities, corporates, startups, high net worth individuals, elements of civil society. And it was vis-a-vis these partnerships, oftentimes driven by the businesses, that were able to really move the needle on these issues. And seeing that, I realized that I wanted to recalibrate and not only just focus on one particular sector, but rather focus on how to convene these important partnerships and how to curate those in a way that really is going to be hyper-focused on tackling the world's biggest issues, but primarily focusing on business solutions to these problems. And so it's been an evolving journey for me, but it's also been a very powerful one. And now I feel like we have all hands on deck in terms of really garnering the best of numerous resources out there to tackle challenges.
Amazing. So that leads me to the next question. So part of your goal is to disrupt at the intersection of tech and scale, able to social impact. Can you please share with us more about this and give us some examples?
Yes. So there's a famous management guru, Michael Porter, from Harvard, who talks about some of the failings of nonprofit organizations over the last 30 years. Many of them have failed, and he attributes that to the lack of profit inherent in their models, that these models need to be sustainable. And in order to be sustainable, they have to have a profit mechanism. And so as I'm thinking about, tackling global issues, what can we do that is, number one, sustainable, and number two, scalable? Because if we're impacting 10 lives, that's amazing and it's important. But if we're impacting 10 million lives, all the better. And so I've looked to technology, specifically exponential technologies, artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, to see how we can apply those technologies to the scalability of tackling these issues. And it's a really exciting dynamic space so many young, innovative minds in the space.
Yes.
And I've found it really heartening to see how these completely competent individuals are really pulling together their knowledge and also their ability to scale using these technologies in really exciting ways. To give you an illustration, I recently was at one of Europe's big tech conferences held by Pioneers, Pioneers 19 at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna, Austria,
Yes.
where I met a founder of a company who's working in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
And it's a drone company. He was trying to deliver life-saving medicines to rural areas across a couple of countries. And he found that it was actually the small farmers who needed artificial insemination, of all things, in order to help their cow populations. And because there was lack of infrastructure, no sufficient refrigeration, by the time he ordered the artificial insemination, it was delivered, the product was no longer working. And so he's utilizes drone technologies to actually, within 24 hours, bring a refrigerated product vis-a-vis a drone to these small farmers that they're ordering on their mobile phones in the outer reaches of these rural areas. And so that's a great illustration of like what people are doing, harnessing technology and scaling it in a way that's really working for the small farmer in sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow, that's incredible. Gee. So, also, well, that leads me to the following question. So, you have a deep passion for startups as you are assistant professor, which is another string to your bow. You are reinventing the university experience in a number of sectors. Can you explain to us in more detail exactly what you are doing and why do you feel that this change is so vitally important?
Thanks for asking that question, Karen. I've been in higher education too many years to count. And I'll be the first to admit that higher education needs recreation. It needs innovation. And when I was privileged to learn about Minerva Project, which, as you mentioned earlier, we're headquartered in San Francisco and started, as all startups do, in that space, just hustling for pre-seed, seed funding. And now, as you mentioned, we had closed Series A, B, and just recently Series C funding. We're trying to address the dearth of higher education for highly competent students around the world. And we've identified this huge market need where we've had exponential growth in middle income students, highly competent students around the world. Meanwhile, Ivy Leagues have not necessarily increased their admittance over the last 30 years. Yes. And so there's space for this. And we're essentially trying to democratize higher education, make it more accessible. And so we have an entirely new pedagogy. We have a new sort of delivery method, a different approach that engages the most recent in active learning research, as well as a high-tech platform which enables us to teach students in unprecedented ways. And we have a sophisticated algorithm that captures important sort of quantitative indicators of student success in the classroom. And so we've done this. We just graduated our first class. It's been amazing. I'm a professor of business, so I teach the business-focused students. And it's been amazing. And now sort of the scalable piece is we're now selling this to other education institutions so that everyone can benefit by it. But ultimately, you know, like I said, it's a focus on democratizing education. It's a focus on really sort of going next level in terms of what does higher education actually mean? What is a student supposed to get out of this?
Yes.
And ultimately, how does that student build a deeper global network that's going to help him or her in their career pursuits, but also in actually changing the world? And so our students live in 7 global cities over 4 years as cohorts. And then multiple times a week, they jump onto our tech platform. They can be sitting in a coffee shop or in their dorm room with their cohort members, and they jump into class with us. So they build their network as they go, and they move from city to city. And then they also get those important skill sets in the classroom that teach them to think creatively and critically.
Wow, that's incredible. That's really amazing. So, the subject of startups is such a vital, well, it's really vital, and it's talked about. The subject is women. Why do you think women are still faced with the challenges to access funding? I know I speak from my own experience, and it is reported that less than 5% of women were funded globally over the past 2 years. Why do you think in a billion-dollar industry that this is happening, and what do you feel is being done to change it?
I'm glad you've raised this question, Karen, and it's a travesty that in the 21st century we have such dismal statistics. As you mentioned, fewer than 5% of women being funded globally for businesses. It's not that the women lack the innovation around starting the business. It's like, how do they access this important startup ecosystem?
Yeah.
And historically, they've been left out of the mix, from access to venture capital to private equity to even, the sort of newest phase, which we see in the accelerators. So I've been working with some partners who are really trying to change the game. They're focused on social impact investing, but they're also understanding that we need to change the game for these women. And so it's giving them visibility. It's giving them access to mentorship, many male mentors, right? But that can then help leverage their own networks to help give these women some face time for the pitch. The FaceTime with the accelerators, the opportunity to sort of evolve and develop their businesses just like their male counterparts have always been able to access. So I see some positive changes, but I'm also seeing those changes happening in newer entrepreneurial ecosystems that are creeping up all over the world, and that's super exciting. So it's no longer just in Silicon Valley. Now we see them throughout the United States, my hometown, Salt Lake City, being one of them, Austin, Texas, Raleigh, Durham. They're all over, peppered throughout the country. But globally, I see huge ecosystems focused on entertainment, for example, in Tel Aviv and Cape Town, South Africa. My friend who's in the impact investing space does so much work there. They're on the rise around the world. And to me, this is encouraging because it signals that there truly is a democratization of entrepreneurship that's happening that maybe we're not quite seeing the fruits of it. We see a trend and potentially a shift. But I'm hoping that if we remain dedicated to this and we're aggressive with it, that in the very short-term future, 5-10 years, we will see a transition where female founders are getting the face time they need. They are getting the resources and the support that they need to create these very vital companies, that many of them. And, according to the data, it also shows that female founders generally have a huge emphasis on tackling social and ecological challenges. And to me, the last thing we need is one more product, one more service that's just that. What we need is to create innovative products and services around tackling the biggest issues that we face as societies. And women historically are really good at doing that. And so to me, the signal, this shift is an important one, and everyone around the globe really needs it.
Amazing. Okay, so the next question is, what would you say have been some of your greatest career challenges, lessons, and learnings? And what have they been, or have you got any examples?
Absolutely. Failing fast has been very important. And I know this is part and parcel of entrepreneurial culture generally. But when we innovate, we have great ideas, and oftentimes those don't come to fruition for a variety of reasons. Maybe the timing was off or the resources weren't there. But being okay with putting forward a really important idea, executing on it, and trying to get feedback quickly as to whether it's effective or not. And if it's not, just moving on. Both with projects and programs and companies, but also in our own career development. Like for me, it's been really important to understand that pivots happen and recalibration happens. And it's a good thing that serendipity is a really important part of our own career paths.
Absolutely.
And we fall into really amazing opportunities. And so like being open to serendipitous events that can really be life altering and organic, but also striking a balance between that and vetting what are the most important priorities, because it's also easy for me to get really distracted. And so like keeping front of mind to me, like what is my true north? What is my career purpose? What are the biggest issues I'm trying to tackle? And which of these amazing 10 opportunities that sit before me are going to garner the biggest results? And then I choose accordingly. So maybe choosing 3 of those as opposed to all 10. And then again, and then once I incorporate the failing fast concept and the serendipity piece, it's like, okay, it may not all work, but then I can move on. And I know, because the universe is good to me and it's good to everyone else, that other opportunities will reveal themselves.
Absolutely. So when you are working with startups and female founders, is one of the aspects of teaching and coaching them, is that your focus, or on negotiations? As it does seem to be something that a lot of women struggle with. And if so, what are some of the examples you can share with us?
Yes, this is important. So as females, it's complicated, right? Because we're underfunded. In the US, I think the most recent statistic reveals that compared to our male counterparts, for women filling the same role in business, we're making 70 cents on the dollar that the average male is. And on, like a host of issues. But like what's behind it? What's undergirding all of these challenges? It's multifaceted. It's structural issues, and we need to tackle those. We need to implement more aggressive policies. We need to be more aggressive about offering, as I mentioned, mentorship opportunities and support for women. But it's also like what we can do as female founders. Like, how can we better negotiate? What skill sets can we develop?
Yeah.
And I think
that is a big problem.
It is a huge problem.
Yeah.
I think for me, looking back on my own career path, if I wasn't completely comfortable with a role, I was being asked to fill, I would be honest about that. I would be like, okay, well, I'm reading this job description and I'm cool with like 50% of that.
Yeah.
And so I would be hesitant to take on that role because I wasn't feeling completely confident. Whereas a guy may walk into the same situation, read the job description, realize he, can competently do 50% of it and say, I'm cool with that. I'll take that on.
Yes.
So I would encourage myself and other female founders that when we're not comfortable with all of it, realize that we have the capacity to learn some of those specifically technical skill sets.
Yes.
And so part of it becomes like, how do we sell ourselves in a way that reflects our confidence, and also our ability to learn? It's okay to tackle new roles and new opportunities, even if we don't know how to do it all. Like, the learning will come. So have confidence in ourselves that we can do that.
Absolutely. That makes sense. So that leads me to the philanthropic side of or aspect of what you do. So you obviously have a real passion for philanthropy and being part of Global Citizen campaign since early inception. How did this come about? And since it started, having helped raise billions of dollars, can you please share with us a little bit more about Global Citizen and how you managed to achieve in raising so much money for this great cause?
Absolutely. So I've done work with business development, and also event production for Global Citizen. And now, just to be clear, I work pro bono on festivals with talent. But it is my cause and it resonates with me. It is my life goal to end extreme poverty.
Yes.
And at my very core, I feel it is a violation of human rights that we have 2 billion people living on less than $2 a day. And I feel with the abundance that we live with in the 21st century, there's no reason why that should be the case.
Yeah.
And so Global Citizen is an advocacy organization. It's a platform, fundraising mechanism to really raise awareness around the issues, to provide millennials and Gen Zs the opportunity to participate vis-a-vis digital actions, to tweet their Congress people, and to participate in numerous ways to really actively participate in solving these challenges. And then it's also an opportunity to bring together these various players and stakeholders. So from corporate sponsorships to the talent, there are many ways that, again, this speaks to what I mentioned earlier about the partnerships, where we have the chance with Global Citizen to pull together so many historically disparate actors in ways that now it's like there is a laser sharp focus around, girls in education, in emerging economies, for example. And so we're going to basically pull all hands on deck in order to tackle that. We're going to get influencers around it. We're going to get corporate sponsorships around it. We're going to get government heads of state to commit money to changing the game, etc. And so we throw these huge music festivals around these issues, and we have tens of millions of live stream viewers. And again, focusing on those digital actions that young people can take to really assert their role in this game changing. And so, my
Do you feel
work
that people are adapting, like corporates and other industries are adapting to the social media and social change fast enough, or do you think that it's still evolving?
It's evolving.
Okay.
But listen, I think any corporate leader now clearly understands that in in part because of digital technologies, the game has changed and consumers want something more and they want something different than they have in the past. And so marketing efforts, therefore, must be different. But ultimately, the core of a business has to be different as well. And the smart corporates understand that because they understand that their current and future customer bases will be millennials and Gen Zs. And that the average consumer is looking for a more mission-driven company. And so it's easy to make a business case to the corporate C-suite executive. And say, maybe historically this was housed, your community engagement was housed in your marketing department, but it's more than that. It's your supply chain. It's the type of product and service that you offer your customer. It's the way you treat them. It's the way you engage in the communities that you serve, both your customers as well as employees. And so, let's build this together. Let's transform your organization. And being part of these different social causes and these different campaigns enables those corporates to really participate in ways that traditionally they haven't.
Absolutely. So that actually leads me to the question around leadership. So there is a very big focus on leadership currently. What is your definition of leadership as we see lack of leadership? And this is something a lot of people are facing. So what would you say your definition of leadership is?
Excellent. Leadership is one's ability to identify pain points, challenges, and opportunities of society, harness resources and the most powerful actors towards tackling those issues. And doing it in a way that inspires the people around him or her to make change. There's, like you mentioned, there's a dearth of leadership. I would argue there's also a strength in leadership. I'm encouraged by young leaders who, it could be argued may seem a bit idealistic, but there's power in that idealism. Because a true leader is able to say, hey, listen, we've got some challenges here. But more importantly, we have an abundance of resources, both in terms of the people as well as the things that we can harness around this. And that leader has this uncanny ability to really infuse inspiration and motivation into these people. So, talking earlier about scalability, it's like a leader really has the ability to make his or her vision scalable because they've been able to amass the support of all of these other awesome human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. So, also, I guess it's using platforms because obviously you've achieved a massive amount being part of TEDx in Oxford and being event producer at Sundance Film Festival and so many others. Can you share a bit about this and how this came about? And has this opened other doors for you in terms of your career?
Yes, it has. I would say in essence, sociologists have a term for networks. We call it social capital. And it's the ability that we have to develop fruitful relationships with other people in order not only to access resources, but also to engage in a really important, reciprocal relationship with people where we're giving to them and they're giving to us. And I find in all of my amazing opportunities that at its crux, I'm able to develop really powerful networks with people. And it's not so much me just saying, wow, okay, that was really cool that I just connected with the CTO of this huge corporation.
Yes.
Rather, wow, I just made a really synergistic connection with the CTO of this corporation.
Yeah.
What can I bring to her
Yes.
that's going to offer value add
Yes.
in tackling the biggest pain points that she may be dealing with as a leader in her company? And so I approach it that way, not so much in what I can gain from it, but what I can give. And it has a really beautiful way of sort of like the karma around that. It always gives back. And I can reach out to those relationships with, to carry this analogy forward, with that CTO when I need it and say, hey, I've got this amazing opportunity. Or is your organization interested? And if she doesn't have a way to support that, then she can probably tap into her own Rolodex in order to help make that happen. I found that to be a highly effective way of doing this. And so it's not so much just, to your earlier question, I've been able to be part of these amazing initiatives. It's not just the value that I get from those events themselves, but
Yes.
it's the network that I'm able to develop around that and really leverage that in my future, both in terms of giving and getting from those relationships.
Yes, absolutely. So, I guess we'll just say the final question. What would your 3 key pieces of advice be that you would share with other entrepreneurs? It's always the tough one.
It's so tough, but it's important, Karen. And again, thanks for the opportunity today. It's been great to reflect on these important questions. What do I suggest to other entrepreneurs? Be tenacious. Be laser sharp in your focus around tackling the biggest issues that resonate with you. If that's extreme poverty, have that be your focus.
Yes.
If you want to address, resources for special needs folks and emerging economies, let that be your focus. Women entrepreneurs, creating more mentorship opportunities for them, let that be your focus.
Yes.
If it's changing an ecosystem that makes it more democratized or more equal, let that be your focus. And then really hyper focusing on what product and service is going to best deliver that for you. And then, again, be willing to fail fast. Be cool with it. Understand you're going to have 10 failures.
Yes.
Or maybe 100 failures before you'll have one success. But that is how this game works. And never give up on that. When you feel like giving up, turn to your networks, turn to your true north, and give yourself some time for self-care, to recalibrate where necessary, but never give up, because the world needs more of you. And it's the only way we're going to get things done, and really effectively tackle those global challenges that belie our progress as a society. So yeah, with all that in mind, to all of you entrepreneurs, stay the course. You're amazing, and you will conquer in the end.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast, and hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Thank you. I would love to rejoin later.